Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Tuesday, June 21st. I'm Amy Corr, and I'm joined by Kevin Van Eck, and we're live out of the Goose Island office. We're actually really excited for this morning's coffee. We've got a different one for you. So grab your coffee mug. Hopefully it's filled with something amazing for this Tuesday morning, and let's jump into the next episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin.
Yes, good morning, Amy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited for today. It's a little bit different than our typical way we talk during coffee, so we're going to interview each other. Here's the jam. We've both sold, but even more than that, we talk with agents not only here locally, but across the country. And so we're going to interview each other with just a few questions about how we would operate in this market. And so let's start with this. Let's start with question number one.
I am a little nervous, I'm just going to tell you.
You're an expert. No reason to be nervous.
I like to be the interviewer, not the interviewee, but I'm going to do this.
Oh, how the turns have tabled. And I know that's backwards. That's a joke. Don't worry.
All right. I'm ready.
Here we go. So first question. And this is a question we get all the time, right? I think probably the most common question we get, especially over the last 2 years, it's how's the market? So if someone comes up to you and you're talking with them and they say, how's the market?
That's a great question. Actually, that is what I would start with, is I would really say, that is a great question. And I think one thing, just in general, I would always note, and I say this to agents all the time, is no one wants a Debbie Downer or somebody that's doom and gloom. So if somebody's asking me that question or I have a conversation, I always focus on just making sure to keep it positive. So I would start with saying, Kevin, God, that's a great question. And there is so much that's going on in the market right now. What have you been reading in the headlines, or what have you been seeing? And the reason why I would do that is because I think as agents, we have so much information, especially because I know you get so much from Coffee with Amy and Kevin, but you've got a lot of data, right? We've got a lot of data points and things that go through our minds all the time. And I think sometimes we have a tendency to then just filibuster, right? So all of a sudden, somebody asks us about how's the market and we want to tell them everything that we know. And by asking them what they're seeing, it allows me the opportunity to kind of figure out like what matters to them. Because really, what's my intention in being excited about having that conversation with them? It's about digging a little deeper into what matters to them as it relates to real estate. Maybe in what they respond back, they might say, well, my wife and I, we've been watching a little bit because we're thinking about whether or not it's a good time to sell. That's great information for me to have so that when I do respond to them and give them some thoughts on the market, it's geared towards what matters to them. So whether they're a seller, whether they're a buyer, whether maybe they are not either, but they're just kind of curious about the market. And again, it allows it to be more of a conversation versus me just telling them everything that I know. And the last thing I'll say about that is that if they tend to go negative, which sometimes can happen when we're talking with somebody like, oh, I see that rates are high and now, buyers are pulling out of the market. The market is always great for someone, right? There's always a positive outlook on the market. So I think that that's really important too, that if somebody tends to try and take you negative in that conversation, always keep in mind that there is always opportunity in everyone. So
that's such a great answer. And I think that keeping it positive is really cool too, because you never know what that person's motivations might be.
Right.
And if we turn negative, we may actually be deterring them from doing something when they otherwise might.
Yeah. Right. So hopefully that was okay. Hopefully I passed.
Yeah, 2 thumbs, 5 stars, would recommend.
That was tough being put on the spot. I'm ready now. I'm ready for all the summer parties. All right, so now, Kevin, it's your turn. I get to ask you a question. All right, so we've all been reading the headlines. You as an agent have been reading the headlines. We're seeing the big shift. 2021 was a great market. We were moving super fast. Things seem to be going great. Now 2022, things are slowing down. The market's shifting. Maybe some of us are getting a little bit nervous. If I were to ask you, what would you be focusing on right now in 2022 to make sure that you are teed up for success?
Okay.
Do you need a little more time?
No, I think I got it. It's actually it's an easy one, right? So I think we talk about this all the time. My answer is going to be totally cliche. It's going to be, something that anyone watching, if you're watching, you've heard this. You're probably so sick of hearing it. But the thing is, people don't do it. It's staying in touch with your database. If you think back to when the pandemic started in 2020, there was definitely a slowdown. Certain states shut down completely. Every state or municipality in some way had a There was a time period where nothing was happening and everyone was freaking out. And I know that you and I work together to be able to encourage agents to start reaching out to their people.
Yep.
And we know that that's part of what catapulted the business in 2021.
Sure.
Was all of the outreach in 2020. And so I think, while it sounds cliche, I think so many of us don't do it.
Yeah.
And whether we overcomplicate it or we do something else. I think if I was working with clients right now and I was, worried about the market, I would be focusing on my database, focusing on the A's, the B's, the people most likely to refer me, because we know that the number of transactions is going down, and with that, it becomes a numbers game.
Yeah.
Right? The more people I reach out to, the more likely I am to get referrals when there's fewer transactions to be had, fewer listings, fewer buyers in the market. So I think I would really ramp that up. And again, not make it complicated, because if I make it complicated, I'm probably not going to do it. So, 2 phone calls, 5 phone calls a day, and make it consistent.
Yeah.
And the agents, the agents that we know that do that.
Well, we've seen it. It works,
Yeah.
and the thing is, I had a conversation earlier about like, this stuff isn't sexy. It's really quite
Right.
boring, but it's the boring, consistent stuff that over time really, pays off. So,
Yeah.
I think that that's, really great advice. Also, because I think sometimes when we feel so busy in the market and lots of things and it's hectic and frenetic and, we tend to go transactional and only
Right.
focus on like, inspections and what's right in front of us. And sometimes we have to really be aware of, okay, I need to get back to the real
Right.
basics of the business.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so true, because we tell ourselves, right? Oh, I'm in touch with my database. I'm reaching out to everybody. I talk with we're not. People fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, and really with a market shift, that's what's going to hurt us if we're
Yeah.
not in touch with everybody to maximize the number of referrals we can gain.
yeah. You know what's so funny about that, on just a funny side note, I was in a session this morning with a group of agents, and somebody shared a story about a much more senior agent that she was learning from. And this agent had this method where she would go through all of her files every morning to recognize who she needed to be reaching out to and get in front of. And she had this name written on the very first file and she looks at it every morning, and the name is Jasmine. And it was so funny because I said, well, why did she write that? And she said, because Jasmine was a client that she basically let slip through the cracks and ended up losing some really great business opportunity.
Wow.
So she writes that as a reminder to herself to reach out to her people and not pull a Jasmine and not
Wow,
lose
okay.
touch. Isn't that interesting?
That
So
is.
I thought that was kind of a fun, interesting story that really relates back to staying in touch, making
Yeah.
sure that you're organized, in your outreach. So
For sure. All right, we got one more question. All right, so you're investing in marketing. You've been marketing. You have collateral. You're upgrading it and working on it like we talked about a few weeks ago. But I think the question is, what are you going to leverage now? We talked about doubling down on marketing and exposure and the outreach like we just talked about. But what are you going to double down with when it comes to marketing, collateral, et cetera?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that we can get so bogged down in some of the collateral, right? We can get so bogged down in, oh, I'm going to upgrade my brochure and the look and feel or my brand or my logo. And then that's 6 to 12 months out, right? So I would say I'd try to focus on keeping it simple in the sense of like, what can I do right now? Like, what can I do in the next 10 minutes? I jump off of coffee with Amy and Kevin. What can I take advantage of? And my thought really is social media. And I know kind of back to, we say it over and over
Right.
again, but we do because it's what's working. We're seeing it work for agents. And I don't mean like be this crazy social media guru where you're doing a million stories and reels and overwhelming yourself.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it simple. Like if you aren't posting anything on social media, then let's just start there. And what I actually love is, Content Hub makes it super easy. I do think it's important for agents to throw in stuff that's authentic, is about them, that isn't all business, because I think you have to flow both things so people see you as a person. And so those posts are important, but then I think Content Hub has stuff that's just so easy.
Right.
You can go and post something that's about the market, or just interesting information about festivals in Chicago. There's so much stuff that we make available that in
Right.
2 to 3 clicks, it's on your social media. So I think I would be, dialing into that. And again, I think I would also just focus on the theme this summer of social, being social and using social media as a platform, but also getting out there and doing things and getting in front of people so that you have stuff to post on social media.
Sure.
Because people are curious. People want to know, like, what are other people doing right now? And I would say now more than ever, this is, it's been almost 2 years since we have probably felt some level of normal, right? And I feel like for now, we're really seeing the opportunity to go out, to travel, to go into restaurants, to not have to be wearing masks everywhere. And I think everyone is really embracing that. So being social this summer, I think is really going to allow agents to tee up for a successful fall market. So get out there, be in front of people, post, do what you can to get comfortable with social media, because I think it's something that isn't a long process. It's something that honestly, I would say all of you go onto Content Hub as soon as you get done listening to this amazing video and post something. Super easy, I think that's what I would do, because it's easy. It doesn't cost a lot. It's mostly your time, but you can also make it really easy if you just use the resources that are available to you. So
yeah, it's super simple. Don't get into Canva. If you don't know how to use Canva, don't learn Canva.
Yeah.
If you have Content Hub is part of Platform, which is the At Properties proprietary system. Christie's International Real Estate has it as well. And there's other tools, Agent Icon, See Social, and whatever brokerage you're at, find a way to get great content so that you can post easily. You got to keep it simple, otherwise it won't be consistent.
Right. You got to make it easy for yourself, or else you don't do it. And then I would almost say, if it's something you do want to try, put it in your phone. Just set yourself a reminder. Maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:30. Ping, got to post something on social.
Yeah.
It's more about just remembering to do it. So if you can set a reminder, I do that for a lot of things, because I have the best of intention, and then my day gets away from me. But if it's in my calendar and I get that pinging noise that tells me I'm supposed to do something or be somewhere, odds are, it turns out a little better that I'll actually do it.
Right, totally.
Most of the time,
totally.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Hopefully this was helpful, interviewing each other. It was fun for us, as you
it
can
was
tell.
kind of fun. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
No big brain busters on this one.
Not this time. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
That's right. Thank you so much. He almost stole my line, but we want you to make it a great Tuesday, make it a great week, and until we see you next time, remember that you've got this.